So let's jump into ROI. So because let's go backward one slide. Backward. Does anyone know what ROI is?
Return on investment.
Thank you, Noah Werner. 2 more points. Is that 4 points for you so far today?
Something like that.
Man, Noah's on a roll today. He gave a great deal brief this morning. Spectacular. Found some great deals we're going to make some offers on. Noah, you're on. Today's a gold star day, Noah. Good job, bud. Go to the refrigerator, man. Go put like a little star for Sephora on it for me. Can you do that?
Yeah. I can do something like that.
All right, sweet. Anyway, return on investment. Because, like I said, we don't get a salary anymore, right? When you go into real estate, I'm not paying you. Sorry, Jared, I don't cover that. There's no salary from Blue Pebble to you. Sorry, that doesn't exist, right? So isn't there investment? Because whether or not you spend $1, aren't you making an investment? Because we could all be working, doing something right now. Maybe it's not what we really dream of doing, but couldn't we all go out and get jobs doing something? So whatever money you would otherwise be making doing something is the investment you are making in your business right now. Have you ever thought about it like that? The opportunity cost? Let's say you could go out and be making $100,000 a year right now, doing working 40 hours a week, weekends off, full control, not dealing with jerks. Because you do get some jerks here from time to time, right? So if you could have a cushy $100,000 a year job and you're not making at least $100,000 a year here, aren't you losing money even if you're making money? So you're making an investment. We got to make sure this investment counts. Now, it could be time, it could be money, it could be both. There's resources. You're making an investment in resources. So we got to make sure the purpose of this business is to get a return on those resources, right? We don't want to spend all this time trying to build a business that we could have otherwise been making $100,000 a year if this thing won't ever be worth $100,000 a year. And by the way, aren't we taking risk? So we want to adjust for the risk that we're taking. So if we have a here you go $100,000 a year versus I don't know what this should yield. Shouldn't this thing be at least 3 or 4 or 500? If we don't know if this is going to work, don't we need to be compensated for the risk that we're taking? That's business. So let's talk about kind of how much this goes into some stuff, Jared, that might be a little more 201-y around advertising and lead gen and leads and stuff like that. But the framework also works in terms of time. And it shows you kind of how efficient you need to be in order. It kind of just shows you how efficient you need to be. And when you're starting out, it doesn't really matter because you don't have anything going on. So you can spend as much time as you want to get something. The return can be very low because we're just trying to get our first thing, right? But the problem is when you're a guy or girl like Brian and Noah and Jen, who now have a lot of multiple irons in the fire, we have limited time to go out and find the next thing because we have to also serve our business, right? So we got to make sure that the limited time we have can yield the amount of revenue that we need to support everything. Because instead of now having 12 hours a day to go out and find a deal, we only have 2 hours and we still have to find that deal. So we got to make sure that whatever we're doing yields a return on time, investment, whatever, whether cash, time, whatever, that we can sustain ourselves. Is that fair? So the framework I think we're about to go through, as I recall from my review, is it more takes a cold ad strategy, but we're going to also talk about it in a warm sphere framework as well. The one thing to keep in mind is that a lot of agents, we got to kind of, and I think Noah also appreciated this early on in his career as well. There is a huge difference in lead gen between quality and quantity. And I think any seasoned agent will tell you, you would much rather have one high quality lead than 100 crappy ones. It's so much better getting one referral from your best friend that you know is going to buy because they're like boys with your best friend than having to chase down 100 Facebook leads to try and get a few of them on the phone, to try and get a couple of them pre-qualified, to try and get a meeting in 9 months to maybe close 6 months later. Can you see the difference on the return of effort, right? So when we're thinking about that, we got to think about lead quality. And so it's not just always what is the cost per lead? What's the conversion rate? What am I working with, right? And so this is more around, like I said, a cold lead generation strategy because we're talking about costs. And so I figured I'd throw this thing in here too, because we're talking, a lot of people spend money on leads. So I want to make sure that we're also framing this conversation properly. I'm going to challenge myself to also bring this back into that sphere thing. So I'm going to take that 10,550 from that last example, right? In terms of like the economic term is, call it gross margin, if you will, right? What is the revenue that you generate from something minus the cost of delivering it, right? So the revenue minus the cost of goods sold equals a term called gross margin. In our example, the gross margin was 10,550 because you pay taxes on gross margin minus other expenses, like we talked about in the other slides. So we're just talking about gross margin. But at the end of the day, it's everything before the 10,550 is everything you get before just turning on the lights every day. So if you're going to spend money generating a lead, you're getting that because you're going to spend the other stuff no matter what. Aren't you spending your time no matter what? Aren't you spending for RE Colorado no matter what? I'm sorry, but you're paying our subscription fees no matter what too, right? So these costs happen no matter what. So we don't really want to factor these no matter what costs into our leads because like we need to pay this no matter what. We need to make sure that we have enough leads to cover that after considering what it costs us to deliver that business as well. So let's say that, here we go. Let's go through the math. So let's say, and by the way, this math can change. It depends on what you want. So I'm just showing you, we're going to take you through how to do the numbers. Let's say you make $10,500 on the deal. And let's say you want to make, how do you determine your lead? Your lead gen budget is determined by what return you need. So if I make, let's say I spend $3,000 to end up making, so if I spend 3,000 right here, can you guys see my mouse? If I spend 3,000 right here and I make 10,500, what's my return? 3x-ish, a little more, 3.3, 3.34, 3.4, something like that. Can someone agree with me, please? Just nod. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Cool. It's a 3x return. Hey, Jared, if you gave me $3,000 and I gave you 10,000 back, wouldn't you have tripled your money? Isn't that 3x? Okay, cool. So we're 3x return, right? So what if you wanted, let's say, a 5x return? Totally reasonable. Wouldn't your lead gen budget then go down to $2,000? If I give you 2 and you give me 10, then I just went 5x, right? Cool. Now you can see how this will impact the numbers, but that's kind of how we think about it. So if I'm willing to, I want to triple my money, which means if I'm willing to spend $3,000 at closing, the other way to think about your per closing spend, if you're familiar with the business term, is your cost of customer acquisition. This is what I'm willing to spend to find a client. It's $3,000 because I know I'm going to make 10 and I need to triple my money. Think about this at scale. What if I spent $100,000 on this? Wouldn't I get $300,000 back? Could we sustain ourselves and our business on 200 grand a year in margin? Probably. We get pretty close. It would be a good head start, right? I don't know. Brian drives some pretty fancy cars. So maybe not for Brian, but for everyone else on this call, a couple $100 grand would be a pretty good start. Now, let's say that, are you going to be converting 100% of these leads? Every lead you get, whether you talk to someone from your sphere, and I tell you, every referral you get from your family, you're not going to close them, Jared. You're going to think you're going to close them, and you're not. Sorry to burst your bubble. You still work them like you're going to, but I'm telling you, you're going to get some disappointment at some point. So even 100% of your leads don't close. So if, let's say you're online, right, if you're online and you're getting like these cold Facebook leads where someone's just like clicking on download this thing. And by the way, remember that isn't Facebook targeting these people, which means they've probably clicked on 1,000 other things before. So now you're in competition with like 800,000 other people. Haven't we all experienced this? If we click on a link, don't we get 5 more ads at the same link? And haven't we probably clicked on a couple of those too? Do you think it's any different with our clients who are finding us online? No. So why do we think it's any different, right? Now we're in competition with 15 other real estate brokerages and we're giving away the other 15 guides for free, right? So you're only going to convert, let's say 1.5% of them. So if you're, let's say, generating leads online and you're only converting 1.5%, you might be willing in this math to 3x return to do $45 a lead. Now, if you present this math to most real estate agents, they would freak out. $45 for a Facebook lead? Are you crazy? Well, yeah, because it takes a year of converting it, right? And the problem is you're spending $10 because you pick up the phone once. If they don't pick up, you never call again. And so you're only getting a hold of about 1/3 of the people you should be getting a hold of because you only make one phone call. So that's why you're only willing to spend 10 or $15. So you only make one phone call. If I'm going to spend a year following up with these people, I would spend triple that because I know I'm going to make the investment. Because I know I've got 200 grand in margin coming, which is going to sustain myself for making these phone calls and doing the follow-up for the next year. It's a leap of faith. Now, think about how this math changes. Now, I want you to think about your sphere and your networking a little bit differently too. But think about how this math changes now. Instead of a conversion rate of 1.5%. Now, maybe Brian, let me do some real world examples here. When you get a lead, Brian, from let's say a past client, a friend of yours, a mate, a boy, I don't whatever y'all call them down in Georgia. What would you say the percentage is of you? How often do you convert those leads from really cool referrals to closings?
I'd say definitely over 60.
60? I'm good with that. I would use 75.
Mm-hmm.
I can use 60. Is that cool? So let's say 60. Now, if our conversion rates on these leads were 60%, how much would we be willing to spend per lead? How much do you guys spend taking your friends out for coffee and golf and dinner and drinks and beers? Would it equal 60% of that? Do you think if you spent a month taking your friends out for coffee and beer and golf balls and hitting and 9 holes or mahjong or whatever, or sublimation or whatever it is that you guys do for fun, do you think you might be able to find 1 or 2 leads out of that? I don't know about you, Brian, but like I can't drink my way anymore. I used to be able to. Right now, I can't drink my way through $1,000 in beer a month. No, right? But like that's kind of, I think this is where people are missing, right? We should be making these This is how much, if our sphere is really one of our biggest points of where we're going to be getting business, why are we investing 0 in them? And by the way, doesn't that also include a marketing budget? That includes postcards. That includes happy hours that we might be hosting outside of Blue Pebbles events. That might include charities or donations or supporting causes within our network. Talk it up to that, right? Because sometimes you write a $100 check to support somebody's school fundraiser. Very often, a week later, you're getting a lead in your inbox. Do you ever notice how that happens sometimes? Chalk that $100 up to your $1,800 in cost. That's all I'm saying, but like you got to spend money to make money. So whatever your conversion rates and the better your conversion rates are, the more money you should be spending because the more certainty it is that you're going to be closing those deals, not the other way around. If you send me a lead, you get a bottle of wine. $50.
And they're going to tell somebody else.
And they're going to
3 people.
Oh my gosh, Jared sent me 2 bottles of wine. It was so nice of him. All I did was send him a name. Holy crap. Right? That's pretty cool. But by the way, isn't that the greatest arbitrage known to man? I just got away spending what I would otherwise spend for a Facebook lead. And I just got away with my best friend doing it. So I know I'm going to close that at 40x the rate that I'm going to close the Facebook lead. But I just spent what I would be willing to spend on a Facebook lead on my best friend. What a win that day. Jared, just make sure you don't send thank yous to your referral partners based on closings because that could be a RESPA violation. So you send the thank you for the lead, not for the closing. So come up with something you can send your people for every lead that you get, not for every closing that you can get.
Can you explain that real quick? Because I've never heard of that before.
So RESPA, Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act, says that one of the things that it says that you cannot compensate basically referral partners in settlement services, A, if they don't have a license, B, if you don't have a referral agreement, and C, if they're at a different like affiliate provider. A mortgage company is contingent upon you closing and you kick back some of that commission to a mortgage company kind of thing, right? So you're effectively paying something of value. Let's say I was giving $250 Amazon gift cards to all of my friends that sent me closed deals, right? Because I don't want to spend $50 on everyone that sends me a lead. I'd rather spend $250 on everyone that sends me a closing, right? So if I spend the $250 on closing, aren't I giving someone a monetary value based on a closing that I have?
Yeah.
Is that person licensed? Is that monetary value governed by a referral agreement? What if that person isn't at the same settlement service provider that I am? Right now, we've got a non-affiliate issue. So that's why I would say always send it per lead. So make your gifting per lead referrals, not per closing referral. Okay.